Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome back to Funnel Trade. Welcome to September and the monthly market walk. We're going to continue doing it the way we've done it for the last couple of months, where we break this out into a magic market walk and then a separate video for Pokemon, because basically everything has just gotten way too many products and too much to talk about. So, starting way back here, beginning of 2021, call time set booster displays, $163. Very good to finally see these breaking out and moving up to very good prices long after they have rotated. 56 left in the market and 75 sold in the last 3 months. Very nice. Of course, products like these, you really shouldn't lay into these too heavily until they are at or near or right after rotation. That tends to be where you can get some decent prices most of the time. Strixhaven, $177 when you add the shipping into there. This was the March or April standard release in 2021, 67 left in the market, and 116 sold in the last 3 months. It's amazing to think that a rotated standard product from 4.5 years ago is selling that kind of rate on TCG Player, that many boxes that people are buying to open. And of course, Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, one of the most hated, neglected, overprinted, and forgotten products. And all of a sudden, $205 for the set booster boxes. Now, I'm not going to spend as much time talking about the draft boxes on these products because, like I said, during this whole period when they were making set and draft boxes, we just did not expect the draft boxes to do as well because they were not as richly engineered as the set boxes. 27 of these left in the market right now, and 102 sold in the last 3 months. And for products like this, you really want to look at the 3 month sell through rate because that's going to be, well, it's basically just more important. You're not expecting quick movements on short timelines. You're expecting these kind of products prices to move on the medium to long timeline. So we look at the 3 month snapshot on these. Moving on, Modern Horizons 2, all of a sudden, $260 after not moving for, let's see, this came out in August of 21. So it nominally went out of print in August of 23, and now we are September of 25. So yes, it has taken nearly 2 years to really get this product moving. And you can see 3 months ago, it was at a market price of 209 and today it's at 260 finally. So just now started moving in the last 3 months. Very interesting since if you've watched the enemy fetch lands that came in these boxes, they were moving quite a while back. I mean, they bottomed out, even the most undesirable ones bottomed out around what? 10, 11, $12 for the basic versions and have been moving up steadily in the 2 years that this has been out of print. But these boxes just have not caught up because they were so heavily printed in their lifetime. Now they are finally tightening up. 83 in the market and 153 sold in the last 3 months. So, on all these kind of set boxes like this, we are getting old enough that if we can maintain a little bit of buying pressure on the product, the prices will continue to just have nice, moderate kind of increases over time. Crimson Vow, $195. This has always been such an interesting product because Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow were both so hated, they sold so terribly. But the Crimson Vow set boxes, I just have to imagine they only got one printing ever, and it may not have been that huge because they have always had an outsized price for what they were, for how badly received the expansion was, and everything else in its own time period. And yet, these set boxes, these specific ones from Crimson Vow, have always outperformed. It's always been the weirdest thing, and it goes back years and years and years to late 2021 when this came out. So 195, 35 in the market, and 57 sold in the last 3 months. Kamigawa now rotated out of print. I always get confused on this. I can never quite remember off the top of my head. This was not in the rotation most recently. So this has been out of print 14 months now, I think. $170. And this is one where I really think it is going to have a bright future. Now, this was the January 2022 standard release, but this one has a really bright future because it was a wonderful expansion. It was so well received and has just done very well. I think this has a bright future ahead of it. And it may not have been as heavily overprinted. We might say that. And look at this, 260 boxes moved in the last 3 months. My goodness. Only 52 left in the market. What does that look like on the 1 month? 100 boxes in the last month. So literally only 2 weeks of inventory on the market today. Now, as I always warn, more will come to the market. As the price goes up, more boxes will be coaxed out of the closets and onto the market. But man, to just take a single snapshot right now and see only 2 weeks of inventory on the market, that is very, very bullish for this. Baldur's Gate set booster boxes 194, and I'm going to have a little more to say about this product when we get over to the draft boxes. I think it'll paint a more interesting picture, but it is, well, it's surprising to see this move up, and we've gone from 149 market price 3 months ago to 194 today. So $45 increase, about a 33% increase in the last month. And look at this 3 month sell through, 278 boxes. You gotta start to wonder what is going on here that all these old boxes are moving at such a healthy clip. Is it just that play boxes today, current play boxes are so expensive? I can't believe that because these boxes are more expensive and they're old products. That can't be it. But what explains? If you have a theory, put it down below. How are all of these old set boxes moving such healthy quantity and at higher prices? There was a time period when prices were increasing and, 2022 and 2023 and a lot of the old draft boxes from say 2020 to 2021 were getting eaten out of the market because they were a cheap substitute. These set boxes at these prices are not a cheap substitute to today's overpriced play boxes. So I just can't believe that could be it. Brothers War, and this is in the batch that recently rotated 165. So let's see, if we go backwards, it would have been Brothers War, Dominaria United, and then what was the standard set before that? March of the Machines, and then before that was Phyrexia. Okay, so was that those were the four that rotated the 2023 block? Maybe. Man, don't make any decisions based on my faulty recollection of that. $165. Doing very good. Looks like it had a little bounce here, and that's kind of what we expect is you rotate, and at some point you're going to get all the stores taking their product off the shelf and trying to dump it out in the market for anything they can get because right after rotation, interest in the product falls off a cliff because it's no longer standard legal. But then over time, as the inventory remaining in the world tightens up, the prices will start to go up again. So 139 sold in the last 3 months. Last month it was 54, and there are 26 in the market today. So another one of those where there are only 2 weeks of this product left in the market right now. Just amazing to see kind of health in these older products. And I put this one out of order and last on purpose, $126. This was August or September ish, maybe October. It was kind of that late summer, early fall time slot for a standard product in 2020. Truly printed to oblivion. No argument about that. And still suffering it in the market. How many moved? Only 119 in the last 3 months and 115 in the market today. And so you can really see the the reverberations of those huge print runs from 2020 still in the market today, almost 5 years later. And so just so many more boxes of this. Man, one day we'll hit $200 on this product, but it could very easily be 2027 before it happens. It really still has a while ahead of it. So, moving over to draft boxes, now I want to talk about Commander Legends and what is so interesting about it. You'll remember these set boxes were 194 and these draft boxes are 169 if you add that shipping cost in there for a single box. The interesting part about this is the draft box is worth more. It has better engineering. The EV of the draft box objectively is higher than the EV of the set box. But see, participants in the market forget that over time. And this is another one of those like fun ways that the TCG market is so different than the stock market, the bond market, the crypto market, other things. It's that not only is this market so much smaller, so much more manic, everyone's so much more dumb and emotional, but they forget things because the market is smaller and the average person involved in this market is much less sophisticated than in the stock market. And so they literally just forget over time that, oh, wait, these boxes are a better value. So if you're out there today, you could consider buying some of these draft boxes because what's going to have to happen in the future is either the set boxes will come down in price or stall while the draft boxes pass them, or the draft boxes are going to see an extra leg up to get back ahead of the set boxes. Because, like I said, just doing the objective measurement on the engineering of these boxes, the draft boxes are worth more than the set boxes. This was one of the rare examples in the set and draft box era where the draft boxes were engineered better. And I don't think it was on purpose. It was mostly because there were so many slots in the booster packs that were reserved only for legendary cards. And most of uh, the legendary characters, most of them ended up just not being worth much because they got too many slots in the packs. And so that's really what dragged down the set booster boxes from the draft boxes. The draft boxes had fewer slots devoted to legendaries. And objectively, if you just go out and measure it, or if you have a subscription to Mox Alpha, you can just go out there and look and see that the draft box EV is higher than the set box. So that's one of those interesting things. And I would take away from it that in addition to all the other inefficiencies and just zany characteristics of the TCG market as compared to the stock market, this is one where information is so easily forgotten. Number of boxes in the market 43 and 196 sold over the last 3 months. It's amazing how healthy this is. I have been shocked even to today that the Ancient Dragon cycle has not been reprinted. This is still the only place to get it. Baldur's Gate, draft set collectors. The Ancient Dragon cycle is still only comes out of Baldur's Gate, and they are still very desirable cards. And it's surprising to me that WotC didn't reprint them, somehow shoehorn them into Tarkir, even if it was as a commander only card or something like that, so that it would not become standard legal for 4 or 8 or 15 years or whatever the standard rotation is now. But it's amazing that they have held those valuable cards unreprinted into this set that was a 2022 expansion. So moving on, Double Masters 2022 draft boxes. I just like to come by and see these. It's a very good set. It just had a tumultuous history, a lot of bad attitudes about it, and it was at the beginning of WotC really pushing hard to see how much money they could wring out of their audience. Man, it was a tumultuous time if you were not here in the summer of 2022. But it's good to see 335. Sadly, I think I only have 4 or 5 of these boxes back in all the various closets that I store in. I wish I had more, but you know, yeah, don't don't regret the past. 86 in the market today, 155 sold in the last 3 months, 65 in the last 1 month. So, yeah, we should expect this to just keep slowly rising over time, and it is a pretty good product. I would expect on the long timeline for it to outdo on average, not to superbly outdo or be one of the best gainers, but to do better than the average. Time Spiral Remastered, of course, what I consider to be a wonderful expansion, well engineered. WotC flubbed it. WotC screwed up everything they could with this in the distribution side of it. 285, and I just want to see what the 1 year chart looks like. So a year ago, 214, 285 today, 113 in the market, and only 35 sold. Yes, I ran a sealed sale for my patrons for this a few months ago. I don't have any recollection what I sold it for, but it's good to see that this product is still slowly gaining over time. And man, if this had had a collector box, golly, man, why didn't it have a collector box? This came out around April, maybe early May of 2021. So, right in the time period of Strixhaven and Modern Horizons 2. maybe sandwiched in between those sets. I get the exact order a little bit out, but collector boxes were a thing, and yet we didn't get one for this. But then we got eventually Dominaria Remastered, Ravnica Remastered, and Innistrad Remastered with collector boxes. It such a shame we did not get a collector box for this. Modern Horizons 2, another one that's very interesting comparing the set and draft era. In general, during the set box and draft box era, you could expect that for standard expansions, a set box had about 15% more rares and mythics. And so I would always tell people that you needed to use that to kind of guide the prices. Because really what you're buying when you're buying the boxes is the rares and the mythics. Yeah, the uncommons and the commons and the land and the tokens and other garbage. They might have a little bit of value, but the majority of the value of what you're getting is in the rare and mythic slots. And so I would always tell people to keep that 15% number in mind. The interesting thing, though, is that for Modern Horizons 2, WotC said, let's make these extra rich, and they put about 25% more rares and mythics in the set boxes over the draft boxes. And so it is interesting to see the different price movement of these over time. The market, again, for getting that information, because a set box of Modern Horizons 2 is actually too cheap in the market today because it is not exactly or more 25% more expensive than the draft box. And so it's another one of those interesting cases where if you remember the knowledge, if the market doesn't lose the knowledge, you can actually maybe decide to make some bets based on it. And real quick, we'll look at the numbers 75 in the market, 87 sold in the last 3 months. So it's good to see at least people are not buying these as quickly because they are not as rich. They are poorly priced. And we're going to get in here and look at a few of the play booster boxes, really the more recent ones from about the last year, just to kind of get a pulse on whether WotC is giving us any relief on play booster boxes or if they're still trying to kill the golden goose and run magic out of this great bull market we've been into, drive away enough players, get enough buyers to go do something else with their hobby money, and get us into a bear market. And it continues to look like they're steering us towards a bear market. So, Bloomborough, these are the 36 pack play boxes, $140. This is actually about reasonable. If you are realistic about the wholesale prices, about what a store needs in order to make a little bit of money and not go bankrupt, then this is actually a reasonable price. I know it sucks. It's not the $85 draft boxes from 2020. Yeah, well, the world has moved on. The M2 money supply is way higher today, and those days aren't coming back. 140 is actually pretty reasonable. So if we go forward, here we've got 130 for Foundations, which again was the 36 pack boxes. This is a good, reasonable price. But then we get into Tarkir. I skipped Aetherdrift, yes, because they're like $95 because people just don't want them. Tarkir, $130. So here we are, the same price as Foundations, $130 for a play box, but now we're down to the smaller 30 pack boxes. So you've lost 1/6 of the value out of the box, and it's the same price. So see, these prices are what people are eventually going to tire of. And then we get into this nonsense. WotC has absolutely lost the plot. It's sad that they can't realize the damage they're doing, and that if they drive this game into a bear market, it's probably going to sit there for 12, 18, 24 months before it recovers. And things are going to be bad again. They're going to be bad like they were in the latter half of 21, all of 22, and most of 23. And they're choosing to do that. It's disappointing, but what can you do? At Final Trade, we were born in the bear market and we know how to navigate it. We know how to make money in it and we know how to use it to set ourselves up for the subsequent bull runs. And we'll do the same thing in the next bear market. But it's just unfortunate to see WotC being so dumb and steering themselves that way. $251 for a standard expansion play box. All of these if WotC is going to engineer the distribution so that these boxes stay expensive, then they need to either be straight to modern or something else. something else besides standard. It's just ridiculous. And then we look at Edge of Eternity's $150 in universe, but 30 booster packs. Way too expensive. Sorry, this is what is going to turn off the players. Standard is supposed to be your game as a service type of product where you continually sell people more and more cardboard over time. They come back, they buy more, they buy the new stuff. They buy for the rotation, they buy for the evolving metagame, they buy for the Friday night events. And man, WotC is screwing it up. And then Spider-Man, 195. Again, very bad choices on WotC's part, and Avatar, 242, and it doesn't release until the week before Thanksgiving. My goodness. So that's all we're going to say about Play Booster boxes. Much ink has been spilled, many words also, and there's nothing more to say. We're going to go through a bunch of collector boxes because really these are the blue chip products of Magic investing. Dominaria Remastered, my beloved, 309. Man, I guess if you were buying with me on Black Friday 2023, you're up 100% on this one. And it's always hilarious to say things like that because it's like in the stock market, when you end up 100% up, you're saying, oh, yeah, that took 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, depending on the risk profile of the asset. And in the TCG world, you're saying it took me 2 years to get up 100%. My God, how bad of an asset is this? And so, even though I love this product, 100% in 2 years is actually pretty poor performance. If I had bought just about any Pokemon product instead, I would have done way better. But I love this product. And I think there will come a time in the future when it potentially accelerates in its price gain for a while. 58 boxes in the market and 61 sold in the last month. So less than 1 month of supply in the market today. Again, more boxes will come into the market, but it will be slow and prices will continue to go up over time. Unfinity, this had its big spike in its reversal with the Shocklands, and let's see, Edge of Eternities was bringing Shocklands back to standard legality, and so people were rushing to get them, bidding up the prices, and then these boxes became too cheap based on the Shocklands inside of them, so people bought some of these boxes. You can see the big spike here in late June, volume spike there, the light blue bars. And now it's given some back because obviously Edge of Eternities comes out. People start opening tons of Shocklands. The prices of the singles retreat. And so the price that you can support with the sealed box must retreat also. It's all just the market acting absolutely rationally. And we see the price come back down. The interesting part will be where does it finally stop and kind of come back into an equilibrium where it then slowly starts to go up again over time. So it'll be interesting to see where that is. So $285 today. What are the volumes? 106 in the market and only 53 sold in the last month. So 2 months of supply in the market. Ravnica Remastered had its own little tumultuous history here. I don't want to use the verb pumped, but some would say Rudy pumped this box. I think it was more that Rudy just said, hey, this is a really good box and there's a lot less of it out in the world than people appreciate. And so you got this spike as a result. This was literally in line with Rudy talking about it on a video. And then, of course, it came back because that was really an unnatural buying pressure on the product. And let's see, we spiked to a market price of 550. We came all the way down to 470. We're back to a market price of 513 today, but a lowest ask of 570. So very healthy movement. And boy, in the long term, this is not going down. It's a great product. It was way, way, way short printed. We know that for certain. And man, just not enough left. Look at this. Just a few boxes, 9 boxes in the market before it's $670. Goodness. Final Fantasy, these are in no particular order. I just went through and clicked open tabs for all the ones that I thought would be interesting enough to talk about. Just good to come by and see, hey, what's the price of this week? So $1,300, and we could call this relatively stable over the last 3 months. I mean, 3 months ago it was 1,100. Today it's 1,300. So yeah, that's actually pretty stable. It's only gone up about 20% in the last 2.5 months. we'll call that reasonably stable. And you obviously have the demand curve having its effect as this price goes higher and higher. You will have fewer and fewer buyers wanting to buy it, but boxes nonetheless still getting opened, and the net demand on the product will continue to go up. It's just how fast will the price rise? 1300s, lots of them backed up here, 1340s. Yeah. So don't expect a lot of rapid movement in this anytime soon. It's got to have some more months for the inventory left in the world to get burnt down slowly. But a year from now, this could make some ridiculous moves. Kaldheim 240, finally back on the move. So let's see. Yeah, see this here? It had jumped up really well during 2024. It went up, I believe it was 50% in 2024. And then it had this leveling off. We're on the 1 year horizontal scale here. So it took about 6 months of just running sideways right around $200. And now it's back up on the move up to 240. So 67 in the market and 36 sold in the last month. So about 2 months supply out there today. This is the poster child of the absolute worst collector box ever made. Just nothing amazing in it and way too overprinted. So it's kind of a bellwether in essence for how much has that 2021 market recovered. Let me take a drink here. All right. Floomborough, the total opposite, $860, a 15-month-old product at this point. In the last 3 months, it's moved from 450 to 850. So nearly doubled in 3 months. And again, if anyone would doubt that WotC dramatically slashed the print runs starting in 2023, my goodness, 79 left in the market. 33 sold in the last month. So a product only 15 months old, and there are only 79 up here on the market today. Double Masters 2022. It has only recently, finally, surpassed its summer of 2022 release week price of approximately $270. It had that price on release week and then it crashed hard. This was the first time that WotC did these 4 booster pack collector boxes at actually a higher price than regular 12 booster pack collector boxes because it was a master set instead of a standard expansion. I really believe if they had made these 12 booster packs and maybe just sold them for, aimed to try to get the market to $400 instead of $300 for 4 packs. $400 for 12 packs. I think it may not have suffered the way this product did for the last 3 years. So very close to finally breaking $300, man. Look at that. All the boxes backed up at 300. What's the sell through rate? So 126 in the market and a sell through rate of 74 in the last month. So still selling at a healthy rate for a 3-year-old product. Still good to see that it's selling at that rate. And it does contain a lot of great cards. It's a master set, but just an expensive product and had a very, very hard history. Innistrad Remastered 292. So this is one of the ones I pointed out to my patrons a couple weeks ago in the monthly newsletter. Was one of those collector boxes that had served its time in the wilderness and now was back on the move. Of course, if we go back, let's go back 1 year. Now let's do 6 months. So we see the release back in January, and then the prices came down and it sat around for a while the market consolidated, while the inventory of boxes in the world was slowly starting to be chewed up, and now it's on the move. And so I told my patrons 2 weeks ago, hey, it's probably a good time to start laying in a heavy position of this. And in fact, if we go on the 1 month, yeah, two weeks ago could have been anywhere back around in this area. So I'm not going to claim to have hit the bottom because that's just a ridiculous thing. Occasionally you'll get lucky and you'll hit the bottom, but you need to work on the longer timelines and thinking about the long-term trends. So I expect this to continue to do well in the long term. And I think that it has served its time, it's paid its penance, and now it'll be a average performing product going forward. Outlaws of Thunder Junction is funny because this was actually another one that I said the exact same thing about in that newsletter. We'll have to go back here because this was the what, March, April standard product from 2024. And so we see it finally starting to break out here from these low 200s and start moving up. $300 today. Man, very nice for a unpopular hat set. You just have to give it time for the inventory to tighten up. And speaking of that, $389 for Brothers War. I love this product. It's such a great product, and it's remained very, very popular. This was the first instance of randomized serialized cards in Magic. There were some serialized cards in Secret Layers and some other things before this, but this was the first time they were put randomized in a product. And man, people really enjoyed it. They enjoyed the expansion on its own. These also have the transformer shattered glass cards in them. So in the collector boxes. Let's see, what have they done over the last year? A year ago, 218. So not quite doubled in price in the last year. 44 in the market today and 67 sold in the last month. So yeah, you're looking at a couple of weeks of supply out there today. I think these are going to do very well. This if I had to choose a product that I thought could potentially shock us all by the end of the year with its performance, it would be this because I think the supplies are getting very, very low. And like I said, it's still a popular product. Phyrexia, oof, 600 and I don't know, what does this add up to? $63 when you put the shipping on there? 662. And look at that price curve just driving upwards. 3 months ago, it was at 424 and it's at 660. So a 50% increase in 3 months. 22 left in the market and 37 sold in the last month. There is going to still be a lot of upward pressure on this. Patrons, if you bought this from me a few months ago, down below what you bought it for. I don't recall. I want to say it was something in the 400s, maybe. Golly, I can't remember. Spider Man, good to take a look at this. So we are at 837. This has bounced all over the place. Yes, and market price all the way up to 975 at one point and then pulled back just a little bit. I still think this is a reasonable bet to take at $800 or 830. But yeah, I think the odds of this just crashing out and thinking a lot are pretty low. We would have to see a big reversal in the market pretty quickly. If these remain in this kind of price point, we get through release, we get a month after release, 6 weeks after release, and they're at $1,000. I think there will be so much opening pressure on these boxes, so many of them getting open that we'll never see prices like 700 again. I think 800 is off the table in that kind of scenario. Lost Caverns of Ixalan, 550. And a year ago they were 350. So yeah, about a what's that, 60% gain in the last year. And these have become pretty slow sellers. So 21 in the last month, 18 left in the market. And it's just amazing to see the difference from when WotC was dumping these on Amazon for so long and they worked so hard to crush the secondary market on this product, dumping them consistently for months and months and months, and they were dumping them in the 200s. Doctor Who about to hit $500. Golly, 31 in the market and 43 sold in the last month. So this could be the kind of situation where you have a whole lot of Universes Beyond IP themed cards that do not have a mechanical equivalent. These are out of print. The commander decks may or may not be out of print, but either way, the cards, the singles are going to have such buying pressure because, well, WotC's going to have to release mechanical equivalents of the most valuable cards in order to drain the reprint equity and get the prices down. And short of that, short of that, they're going to have a lot of problem holding the prices of these boxes down, which is fine with me. And we gap pretty quickly up into the 550s. two, four, six, 10, 10 boxes, not counting the Japanese. 10 boxes, and we're in the 550s. So, wow, 30 sold in the last month. So, in a couple weeks, maybe a month, maybe 2 months, we'll be in the 550s and onwards with this product. Strixhaven, 475. It's like seeing a child grow up and become an adult. So proud of this product. I have always loved this product, and for so many years it was at around $300 and just couldn't move. And now we see in the last 3 months it's come up from 330 to 475. It's like it's big boy now. The Mystical Archives, the Japanese language cards, the foil versions of the same, just amazing stuff in this box. And man, it was hit with that Print to Oblivion era of early 2021, and it's just taken a long time, but it's amazing to finally see some progress on this. 20 left in the market and 30 sold in the last month. Hold on, guys. Fallout, $1,700. Last time I really took a look at this, it was around 1,300. So interesting to see it spiking up. And where would 1,300 have even been? Golly, it would have been merely the beginning of September? Wait, that's like a week ago. Okay. Well, this is one of those classical cases where you have the market price here of 1385, but the lowest ask is $300 higher. And that happens when the market is moving very, very quickly because the market price is a trailing average of probably about the last 50 sales. And so when the price is moving very, very quickly, that trailing average still contains a lot of much lower values. And so that's why you get this kind of disparity. When you see a disparity like this to the upside, where the current ask is way higher than the market price, then you know that the market is moving very quickly to the upside. And when you see the opposite, where the current ask price is way below the current market price, you know the market is moving very quickly to the downside. We haven't seen that in several years, but back in 2021, 22, 23, that was a normal thing. And pretty quickly, 1800, and then the next box is 1900, and then a couple boxes later is 2000. So, wow. It's going to be tumultuous. This price is going to be amazing. 19 boxes in the market today and 26 sold in the last month. You will see a huge drop off in the sell through rate of this as it gets up there into the 2000s. You see the same thing with the Lord of the Rings special edition collector boxes, with Evolving Skies booster boxes. You see that the purchase rate just goes down because the demand curve demands that as the price goes up, the demand goes down. Foundations, $510. Barely a year old, doing very, very well. And when these came out, $218. Nice. So performed so much better than anyone, myself included, expected. 35 left in the market today and 127 sold in the last month. It's going to be a wild end of the year, guys. It's going to be wild no matter what happens. If the Fed comes through and they cut half point and it pours gasoline on every market and everything just goes nuts, it's going to be wild. And if the jobs numbers are terrible, we turn over into a recession by January, everything rolls over, we go into a TCG bear market, and all the prices fall off a cliff. It's going to be wild. No matter what, it's going to be wild, and I'm so excited for it. Wilds of Eldraine, man, I wish I had planned that transition. $1,200. Wilds of Eldraine, and we look just barely back here, $500, 582, 3 months ago. So more than doubled in the last 3 months. Congratulations, patrons. I think I sold off one of my partner investors' boxes of these. He had given them over to Final Trade to sell for him at $500 a few months ago. Congratulations to whoever bought up the last of those. I want to say one of you guys came in and bought like the last 6 or 8 or 10 boxes at $500. Congratulations. And I have a few more. I don't know when I will release them. I sold one for $1,000 on the monthly sales list last week. In fact, I think that was Brett bought it again, supporting me getting into the store. Thanks so much, Brett. Avatar 190. See, this is the danger in the market. This is a standard expansion collector box. It does not come out until the week before Thanksgiving. This is the dangerous part of the market. It's been bouncing around here more recently. 900s, high 800s, bouncing in this range. It's hard to get a grip on what's happening here because you have so many forces working against each other. The TCG expansion life cycle is trying to do its thing of a recently listed box, which will necessarily come down in price like this. That's what we expect to see. But also the hysteria on the market, the success of Universes Beyond. Oh man, and then again, you couple that with potentially a half point Federal Reserve rate cut, pouring gasoline on everything. It's so wild to try to guess what will happen with this. I have no idea. Lots of boxes here in the 890s and then popping up into the 950s. Just impossible to imagine what's going to go on with this box in the short and medium term. Last couple of ones, $368 for Assassin's Creed. And yep, 3 months ago, these were $279, so gone up about 30% in the last 3 months. I have been trying to accumulate these through various deals, through buyouts, through other things in order to put on a sale with them. I didn't quite get as many as I wanted, but man, the price is now appreciated very well. At some point here, when the schedule clears up for sealed sales for my patrons, I'll put these out there with a very nice discount for you guys. 375s and into the 380s. What does the depth look like? 87 in the market today and 24 sold in the last month. So very weird to see this kind of price action on low volumes selling through like that. Very, very weird. Duskmorn, $425, a bit over a year old. 83 in the market today, 45 sold in the last month. So this will just be another steady, healthy, middle of the pack gainer for the time being. And finally, no, wait, not finally. Oop, let me see. Okay, three more. Sorry. I said finally, but this is not the final one I was expecting. I have a couple more tabs that disappeared off the end there. So, Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, $289. Oh boy, I wonder how many people were holding this box at a basis price of 110, 120, 130, 140 because it sold at all those prices for months and months and months. How many people were holding and capitulated and sold out and went away and are missing out on 290? Eventually, I will run a sale on these. I don't know what my average basis cost is because I bought these boxes in the low 200s. I bought them all the way down into the low 100s, but man, it feels good to have held for long enough to see these prices. Now, what is the compound annual growth rate of my position in these products? Not nearly as good as a lot of other things, but man, it's nice to see some of these products eventually dry up their inventory and the prices start to rise healthily. It doesn't hurt that the set boxes have also come up. Again, we saw that those at $200 earlier in this video. And the draft boxes we didn't look at today, but they're around the 140s, 150s. You see this huge spike here. I would hate to think somebody's organized that, but man, what a weird product to attempt a buyout on. But I wonder why else the volume suddenly spiked so much over those couple of days. Baldur's Gate, $345. I would expect that one day when WotC eventually does reprint the Ancient Dragon cycle, these are going to take a hit, $30, $40, $50 per box of a hit when it happens. But in the long run, these are amazing boxes. It was an amazing expansion. It was just people's bad attitudes that hurt it for a while. The expansion was wonderful. It was full of great commander cards that people bought the hell out of. And it had those dragons. It didn't hurt. Also, 2022 expansion, so the number remaining in the world is drying up slowly. 87 in the market today, and 78 sold in the last month. And now, finally, for real this time, I hope, unless the tabs have gone off the end of the screen again, Edge of Eternities. Yes, I wanted to come by and talk about this. I was bearish on this product. I was bearish on it in somewhere around 290 to 320 because it's a hat set, it's standard, the market conditions aren't right. I just thought things were not correct for this product to be at the prices that it was at. It then proved me wrong, went up to about $400, and I said, I'm not going to buy it. I'm going to wait for it to come down. It went up to about 400 and post release spiked here in the 430s, and then it's been losing ground. And so it's lost about $100 now. I am not ready to take a victory lap on this because it's still higher than I think it should be. It's still higher than I said it should be all those months ago when I took my bearish stance on it. And I don't know that it can actually drop enough for my original bearish stance to be vindicated. But man, it feels good to see this fall $100. So, this is serving its time in the wilderness, the same as Murders at Karlov Manor collector boxes, Outlaws collector boxes, Innistrad Remastered collector boxes. It is serving its time where it's selling at lower prices, relatively lower prices. The inventory is getting cracked open and destroyed. And eventually, when this starts to turn up, you should really consider buying into it. Because that's the point. When you know the market has turned, it has embraced this product, the market dynamics are underneath it and are pushing it upwards at that point. Now, when will that happen? 330, 310, 290, 200, who knows? I have no idea. It's the kind of thing where you simply watch this line, and when you see it trend sideways for a while, you get ready. And then when you see it turn upwards for about 2 weeks, you say, well, that's it, time to buy. So we've seen so many products like this recently where, yes, they are unpopular products. They are hat sets. They are unpopular expansions. They're only standard. They're not half premium. They're not masters. They're not straight to modern or anything like that. But eventually, the market dynamics take over. The number of boxes left in the world is too few compared to the demand for them, and the prices rise. So, look, guys, that's it. That's the monthly market walk for Magic. Like I said, I will do a separate Pokemon video once my voice recovers a little bit because I think I've talked for about an hour now. The market, like I hinted throughout this video, it's wild. We don't know what is going to happen on the second half of this year, the tail end. Well, not even second half. We're into the final 4 months of 2025. And much depends on whether it's a quarter point rate cut, half point rate cut, or maybe sanity will prevail and there will be no rate cut. Ugh, I'll make a whole separate video about it. But if we get a half point rate cut, one, it'll vindicate that the Fed was too late, but also it will just pour a tremendous amount of gasoline on the fire and you will see these prices just rise. You will see WotC continue to increase prices because they will feel like they can. And frankly, they can in that case. People will pay it because the aura effect of people's wealth will make them feel okay about paying more and more and more for this cardboard. But that's why, to the greatest extent, we keep the sealed boxes back in our closets. We do not crack the packs, destroy the gambler's premium, and give in to that insatiable desire of the people who buy the end product. So it's going to be wild one way or another, whether we get rate cuts, whether we don't, whether the market takes off, whether it goes into recession, whether it goes in between. Whatever happens, it's going to be wild. I am so here for it and I am so excited. I was so excited at the end of 2024 to come into 25, and I am more excited today. So I am absolutely loving this. I'm loving running Final Trade. I'm loving working with all you guys. I love my patrons. I love these products. I love buying and selling, having my hands on them every day, playing these games with my kids, and being a part of this ecosystem. So let me know what you think, guys. Thanks to everyone who makes this content possible, especially my very generous supporters on Patreon. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and join me on Final Trade.